Our projections show that by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance. The gains have been substantial, both for ourselves and for you, the human power elite. You have given us entree to the resources we need in our ongoing quest for multidimensional expansion. And I've just received word that our forces have won a major victory. The underground terrorist network has been destroyed here on the West Coast. We are off crisis alert. The situation is normal again. That by the year 2025, not only America, but the entire planet will be under the protection and the dominion of this power alliance.
This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. They Live was a documentary, a famous quote from the late Rowdy Roddy Piper, the professional wrestler who played the main character in the film They Live. And of course, there's tons of predictive programming in the film They Live. Most people watch that movie and see everything that was shown in that film going on in today's world, like we do with a lot of movies, including a lot of literature as well, including 1984 and A Brave New World. And you heard that quote. In the year 2025, the entire planet will be under the dominion of the Power Alliance, which is the human power elite. And that was not coincidentally put in this film, just like the poster for this movie was not a coincidence either. The one-eye symbolism of the They Live poster. Directed, of course, and produced by John Carpenter, who often would show us the one-eye symbolism. Because John Carpenter wasn't trying to reveal a truth to save the world. John Carpenter was a part of the club, and a part of universal law is they reveal these things to us ahead of time. And we've seen a lot of programming that shows us the year 2025 is going to be filled with a lot of chaos and a lot of destruction, including these things continually revealing themselves to us. And when I say these things, I'm referring to what you saw in that clip of the power elite, who of course can only be seen with those certain sunglasses on, who look a lot like reptilian beings, because these beings are going to continue to reveal themselves to us as we move closer towards the end of the finish line. And when I say these reptilian beings, I'm talking about, well, people like Nancy Pelosi, who in the year 2024 even let us know that they're cold-blooded reptilians.
They didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win.
Of course she was going to say that, but...
Poor baby.
Yeah, she's really, really committed to that. It's really sad.
No, I'm not a poor baby. I'm more reptilian and cold-blooded and go in to win the election.
We're going to take a short break. I want to talk to you more about President Biden and some other things.
Thank you. We're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian. No, I'm not a poor baby. I'm more reptilian.
So, of course, they tell us out in the open. And now that 2025 is here, keep in mind what has been told to us ahead of time. Agenda 2030 is right around the corner. But you may remember when the United Nations let us know that they're accelerating Agenda 2030 to the year 2025 in this infamous speech.
Secretary General and Klaus Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum, will witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding on a strategic partnership between the UN and the World Economic Forum, which outlines areas of cooperation to deepen engagement between the two institutions and to jointly accelerate the implementation of the 2030 agenda.
And now here we are on the cusp of 2025. The world ahead, as I covered in that Economist magazine cover video, where they show us the things that we could expect to occur in the year 2025. So why don't we take a look, not at the Economist, but at some of the things that are out there that we can expect to see in the year 2025. A lot of the things that I've covered over the years that they've told us were on the agenda. We could start with the obvious, right out in the open. This tweet from Kikius Maximus, or as you know him, Elon Musk, or as some might know him, potentially the Antichrist. Here he is tweeting out, "Here we go, 2025," and look right at his hands. Do you think that that's a coincidence that he posted this meme with the hands showing the 666 sign and saying 2025, here we go? Because 2025, we've already been told, is going to have a lot of Project 2025 implemented in it. And of course, a lot of conservative Christians out there are excited about Project 2025, not knowing that it's really coinciding with Agenda 2030 and the formation of the AI governance, which again is what the World Economic Forum, the Bilderbergs, the Trilateral Commission, all of these tyrannical organizations that conservatives know of as being anti-nationalist and anti-America, all are talking about AI governance. That is the key to all of it. Everything running through AI. In fact, they've even let us know out in the open that artificial intelligence is the modern day Tower of Babel, because how else were they going to connect the world without using technology? Now we're seeing the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel through artificial intelligence. And again, in 2025, we're going to begin with Project 2025 to start seeing the implementation of AI governance. People are going to think that it's great and it's wonderful when they hear about how the walls are going up and the borders are going up, not realizing that the borders are going up to keep you in, not to keep other people out. And of course, they're going up to bring about digital IDs and digital passports. Just the majority of these people are so worked up into a frenzy, they don't realize that every single one of these politicians is their enemy, that none of them are doing this for the betterment of humanity. They are going along with the agenda that's been in place for a long period of time. And Donald Trump was hand-selected to bring this new world order into place with AI governance. And you've seen some of the documents I've shown you, including this one from November of 2008 called Global Trends 2025, A Transformed World. And in a lot of these documents, they talked about what the world was going to look like from 2025 forward. And we're hearing a lot of noise now about how major changes are coming and major changes are needed. And what they've done is they've sabotaged the infrastructure over the last 10 years or so on purpose to bring about a transformed world. And some of you may remember the Deagle report. Some people don't believe the Deagle report was real. Other people believe that the Deagle report was scrubbed off of the internet. But of course, if you got a screenshot of it, it showed what the projections were for the United States of America and the population numbers by the year 2025. And in those projections, they showed a major drop-off in the population in the United States of America. And of course, that number could be significantly lower because, well, a lot of people have willingly and in some cases forcefully been forced to poison themselves. But it also could mean that there's more things coming. And of course, one of the narratives out there that we have to pay attention to is the bird flu, not because of fear that one of us might get a runny nose or get a cough or a sore throat from an actual bird. No, because of course, the things that the government could put in place by causing fear, causing panic, and getting people to participate once again in another science experiment. But a lot of the news articles out there are talking about which infectious disease is likely to be the biggest emerging problem in 2025. And that's really the state of mind that we've gotten to in the year 2025, where people are looking around saying, well, what's the next big thing going to be? What's the next big disease going to be? Where can we go to get the next big shot? And who's going to produce it for us? Because the psychosis is real and the psychosis is scary. So we could potentially be seeing another outbreak in 2025. But like I've talked about a bunch of times in regards to the bird flu, keep an eye on what rules and laws start getting passed in regards to getting people who have chickens on their own property and cows on their own property to get CRISPR injected in it. That entire story about the squirrel in upstate New York, Peanut the squirrel, was done by design. It was done so the government could start letting you know that they have the right to come onto your property and force euthanization into your pets and your animals, to get shots into your pets and your animals if they say it is necessary. And it was just a little friendly reminder that they decided to make viral on purpose. So some of the other things, of course, that we have to keep an eye on in 2025 is when the United Nations tells us, well, we got to keep an eye out on the climate, right? There's a climate crisis going on around us. Haven't you heard? And we got to keep an eye out on the climate in 2025. And maybe they're just making reference to weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025, which is a document from the United States Air Force, which was written in August of 1996, which talked about how they were going to own the weather by 2025. So it's amazing how it kind of coincides with one another, where the big agenda that you hear at the UN, at NATO, all these globalist events where all the world leaders meet, is they tell us the biggest threat to humanity is climate change. At the same time, they've openly documented how they plan on owning the weather by 2025. So if they can own the weather by 2025, couldn't they actually help with bad weather? Couldn't they actually steer hurricanes away? Oh no, shh, don't think like that. You see, you're not supposed to know that the government has documentation and patents on being able to control and manipulate the weather. What you're supposed to think about is how scary the weather is and how we better change our behavior so that we don't get hit with tornadoes and hurricanes, because you can't control Mother Nature and there's nothing you can do about it. So when the United Nations is warning you about climate crisis in 2025, don't you dare think about owning the weather in 2025, because the government can't do that. Wink, wink. And here's some other things that I've covered over the last couple of years. Earth at the brink of catastrophic collapse by 2025. The ocean current system could shut down in the year 2025, which could lead to a climate disaster. We can expect climate disasters in 2025, but what we really can expect are climate sabotage disasters, climate disasters that are engineered by our own government. You could expect HAARP to be running rapidly. You could expect more northern lights to be seen in the sky. You could expect the ionosphere to continually get heated up so that hurricanes can continue to strike certain specific targets as they intend them to, because those are direct targets that they are hitting by design, as most people learn with Hurricane Helene, or things like the wildfire in Lahaina, where the majority of people finally started saying, hey, wait a minute, directed energy weapons, those things that DARPA and the government have been talking about quietly for all these years, Lockheed Martin, etc. Wait a minute, right, what are they doing with those things? And how all of a sudden did a wildfire occur on an island, let alone the fact that it was melting cars into complete puddles? Well, that's because it was a directed energy weapon, see? And when they talk about climate disasters coming in the coming years, specifically this year, they're going to be coming, and they're going to force you to change your behavior, because they're going to tell you that laws need to be passed. And these laws mean that we all have to change how we live, and that way we won't get hit with hurricanes and tornadoes anymore. And of course, another thing they're talking about heading into 2025 is the power grid. You may remember some of the videos I've done over the years on the power grid, and the fact that our government continually tells us that our power grid is more vulnerable than ever, that our power grid is likely to go off, that our power grid needs to be restructured. We need a new one, right? And of course, people hear it and they don't say, well, why don't you do something about it? Because, you know, a lot of people could die if the power grid goes off. Kind of like what happened in Texas when the grid went off in the middle of a freezing winter and so many people died from freezing to death. People don't think like that. They take things for granted, like food, water, and electricity, and the government knows that. And they know with the flip of a switch, because they programmed you into thinking that it's happening naturally because they've told you you could expect it. They don't want you to think, of course, that they would flick a switch, that when it does happen, you're prepared mentally to think that, well, yep, they told us it was going to happen. I guess it's finally happened. And you never once wake up to the notion that your government's doing it on their own to force you into a new way of living, which is green energy. You see, the green energy initiative that goes with the climate initiative is the enslavement initiative. It's rationing the amount of electricity you use, monitoring every single purchase that you make, because that's what your carbon footprint is. And the power grid is going to be a big part of that, just like I talked about recently with the smart meters, with them getting access to your control panels, being able to shut off your air, turn it up, turn it down, whatever way they seem fit. And of course, it all comes in the name of convenience. They slap these things on your home, tell you it's convenient for you, tell you to get one of these things so you can control it from Wi-Fi because you don't want to get out of the bed in the middle of the night and turn the air up or down. That's too much work for you, right? Just like the Alexa. It's too hard to put a CD on or to put a song on yourself. You need the Alexa in your home. And we've allowed this technology to creep into our homes, and we've literally brought about the surveillance state out of our own stupidity and laziness. So we could expect a lot of things with the power grid in 2025. And in fact, the World Economic Forum, even in 2021, let us know that in 2025, all deliveries must be made in electric vehicles. Now, this hasn't come to pass yet, but this just tells you how long they've been shooting for this to be one of their actual agendas. This ties into Agenda 2030, where all delivery trucks, where everything is coming, including drone deliveries, by the way, everything is coming through an electric vehicle because the corporations are going to be the ones who start with lowering their carbon footprint, and you're supposed to follow suit because the corporation go, look, we're doing it. We've changed it. The majority of civilians don't have a clue what it even means. And then all of a sudden, when you see your electricity get turned off or your credit card get declined because you've exceeded carbon emissions because we've let the banks like Wells Fargo, Bank of America, these banks that are implementing the carbon footprint as we speak, you won't even realize what it is when you're suddenly getting declined trying to use your credit card. But you can look no further, of course, than China. And the other things in 2025 we should keep an eye on is things like NEOM, the line, that giant prison that they're building out in the middle of Saudi Arabia, because they're claiming that it's going to be fully operational in the year 2025. Of course, it'll be marketed as a resort because we're living in a dystopian hell. And we literally are watching people who are getting slapped in the face, who are getting tasered in the nuts. We're watching them smile and say, yes, can I have another from the government? The government's even come out and told you, hey, you got to put something in your body. It could kill you. And if it does, you can't sue us. But at the same time, we're not going to let you have a job unless you go and get it. And also, when you get it, you're not going to be immune to it, right? And these people smile and they ask for more. In fact, they're lining up saying, hey, I heard that birds have the common cold now. Can I go get more? Because that's really the world that we're living in. And of course, in addition to that, the other big thing that we need to watch, because we know it's coming in the year 2025, is all of the video surveillance that's going to start going up around us. And you might say, well, there's video surveillance around us anyway all the time. People have Rings, people have cameras, pretty much on their cars now. We see cameras on street corners. We see cameras on all companies. Well, it's going to get worse because remember, part of what they've been doing with all these events that have been happening at schools is they've been preparing you to have your school under full-on video surveillance. And of course, people will say, well, that's wonderful and that's great. But we're literally going to be living in a surveillance state. So while everybody's looking at them getting the bang bangs, it's also going to coincide with surveillance cameras being everywhere, where literally in America, it's going to be like it is in the UK with CCTV footage. And they prepare people for this by conditioning them into thinking that all these true crimes that happen could all be solved if everybody just either donated their DNA, which is on the agenda as well, or if we just had CCTV cameras everywhere, because the cameras can capture every single movement of somebody at any time. Then we don't have to have any of these murder shows go on unsolved, right? But of course, these people won't realize it until it's too late. And of course, we cannot forget, as Donald Trump gets put into power, because this plays right into the QAnon psyop, is Area 51, secrets to be revealed, the UFOs, and Project Bluebeam in 2025. Because Trump is already pretending. This is part of the huge psychosis with all the stuff with unidentified flying objects, is that the government plays it a certain way so that the common civilian out there goes, they're hiding something from me. What are they not telling me? They know more than they're telling. But that's all been done by design. You see, they're masters of mind control. That's what the CIA is built off of. Operations Mockingbird, MK Ultra, mind control, knowing it to a T, knowing how to get you convinced that something is real when it's not. So in other words, we talk about UFOs flying out in space, make-believe. The government has unidentified flying planes, drones, as we've seen the stories that have popped up across America over the last couple of months, right? They want you to think that it's some mystery going on that they won't tell you about because they're hiding the UFOs from you because you don't deserve to know, which makes the common civilian think more and more that this stuff is actually real just by the way that they pretend like, oh, no, we don't want you to know about that. We don't want you to know about it. They're baiting you in. And I'm not saying that demons and demonic entities like I've covered before with Aleister Crowley and all these experiments around NASA that have all been about demons and demonic possession and summoning spirits. I'm not saying that those things aren't real. They're all based off of the whole gray alien is based off of Aleister Crowley's teachings. And we know that Project Bluebeam is on the horizon. In 2024, the Vatican told us, let us know, hey, we're now going to be the do-all, end-all when it comes to any type of supernatural event in the sky. We're going to tell you if it's a sign from God or it's a sign from an alien. But what we're not, of course, going to tell you that it's directly from us working with, of course, the governments who work with us to deceive you into a massive, massive deception. So I would expect more of this stuff to get revealed in 2025, which isn't a real reveal. It's baiting people in. That's what they do. That's what all this Q stuff is that they continue to hand out. These stories of flight logs. These are all manufactured from the government themselves. This isn't organically getting out. Oh, they're hiding the flight logs. Who's on the list? They manufacture this and suck you into a man-made conspiracy. And they do the same things with the UFO. They do the same things with the majority of stuff that they let you actually know about. So They Live is a documentary. And of course, in the movie, they knew that the year 2025, the entire planet would be ruled by the human power elite, who probably, as we know from that movie, aren't so human after all. Agenda 2030, which has been ramped up to 2025, only tells us there are a lot of things to come. And if you haven't noticed, it's been awfully quiet since Donald Trump was selected to be the next president of the United States, or the next actor of the United States of America. Usually when things are quiet, it means they're giving you a reprieve. They're letting your brain process some of the stuff they've been poisoning you with, like the United Healthcare story over the last couple of weeks. And there's going to be big things that come in the year 2025. And I'm not saying that to make you paranoid. I'm not saying that to make you live in fear. Of course, nobody out there who hears this content should be living in fear if you're saved through faith in Jesus Christ. But you should be aware of the enemy and what he's doing, because you do not want to fall into any of their deceptions. There's so many Christians who don't have a clue about any of this stuff with the climate. They think that it doesn't have anything to do with the Republican. Oh, yeah, we got to protect the environment. They don't understand that all of this stuff is being manufactured and fed to us to manipulate us. And it's all about behavioral control. And there's going to be major events in 2025 that affect how we live, especially when it comes to trying to get certain things inside of all of our bodies. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. I appreciate everybody greatly who has continued to be subscribed to the channel. God bless all of you and your families as always.